Okay, that was the last person, so we'll move on to superintendent's recommendations and reports. Mr. Smith?
Thank you, Mr. Birdie. At this time, I'd like to ask Mr. Martin to cover the items listed under Personnel Professional.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Mr. Birding and members of the board, I have several items for you this evening under Personnel Professional. Item number 1, employment. Letter A is extracurriculars for the current school year. Letter B, academic support tutors for the current school year. And item C, substitute teacher for the current school year. That concludes the items I have for you this evening.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Martin. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to accept those recommendations.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I heard Mr. Clark and Mrs. Gundrum. Any questions or comments? And Mrs. Lane, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Clark?
Yes.
Mrs. Gundrum?
Yes.
Mrs. Shorter?
Yes.
Mr. Begley?
Yes.
Mr. Birding?
Yes, motion passes.
This time, I would like to ask Mr. Perry to cover the items listed under Personnel Support.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Mr. Birding, members of the board, I have the following items for your consideration under personnel support. Number 1, resignations A through C. Number 2, unpaid leave of absence A through C. And number 3, employment A through D. And that includes the items for your consideration this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Perry. This time, I'll entertain a motion to accept those recommendations.
So moved. Second.
I heard Mr. Begley and Mrs. Shorter. Any questions or comments from the board? Okay, Mrs. Lane, will you call the roll, please?
Mr. Begley?
Yes.
Mrs. Shorter?
Yes.
Mrs. Gundrum?
Yes.
Mr. Clark?
Yes.
Mr. Birding?
Yes, motion passes.